Hey guys, how's it going? It's Danconia here, and welcome back to the Overwatch League Roundup Win Conditions Seoul Dynasty Edition. So, we took a look at the LA Gladiators last week, or in the last video, not last week, couldn't get them out quick enough. And the Gladiators have arguably got the most difficult stage coming up. Seoul Dynasty have also got it quite difficult. And they're a team, their differential is really good right now. Along with the Gladiators, they're looking at the best differential out of the chasing pack. But the thing is, that differential could really take a hit in Stage 4, looking at the teams they've got to play. So, Seoul Dynasty currently occupies 6th place in the league, the last playoff spot. They're on a 12-9 record, which is equal with the 3 teams below them, London Spitfire, Shanghai Dragons, and the Philadelphia Fusion. Those teams all have poorer differentials, that's mainly in part thanks to London's pretty bad Stage 3. So, Dynasty, they hold the cards right now. They kind of hold the cards right now over those 3 lower teams. The thing is, they haven't got the easiest of schedules. You look at their week 1 and they are thrown in at the deep end of Stage 4 with the San Francisco Shock being their first game. You have to expect the Seoul Dynasty to lose to the Shock. They have been pretty much trounced every time they've come across them. So, there's a loss on the board there. You'd have to expect them to drop down to the mid-table position. Oh dear. And then they've got to take on the Shanghai Dragons, a direct competitor for their playoff places. Who do I think looks more consistent, Seoul or Shanghai? I've got to go with Shanghai. I have big questions about Seoul's consistency. And this is where Seoul have to show some consistency in Stage 4. They have to beat the mid-table teams, or they're not going to make it to the playoffs. They're going to have to play in the play-ins. And I'm not sure whether Seoul Dynasty can really win those play-ins right now. We'd have to see. But Seoul have to come up with some consistency in Stage 4, otherwise they're going to really suffer. I'd have to say I would expect them to go 0-2 in the first week, and that puts them in an awful position going into the rest of the stage. They have to try and avoid that. They have to beat the Shanghai Dragons. Then they have to take on the Valiant in week 2. Well, the LA Valiant are on an up right now. We all know about the story of Valiant. And they can't really afford to lose. The Valiant have to pretty much win most of their games this stage, if not all of them, to try and get into the play-ins. So, it's not impossible for the Valiant to not get to the playoffs, but it's more realistic that it's going to be the play-ins. And I think if you go on current look, I think the Valiant have the edge over Seoul. So, oh dear. You're suddenly looking at sticky situations for Seoul if they manage to lose to the Valiant. Again, games against the Shanghai and the Los Angeles Valiant, they have to win them. They have to win them if they want the playoffs. Or the automatic places anyway. You go into week 3, and this is a week they have to dominate. Seoul will play the Guangzhou Charge and the Toronto Defiant. They have to win these, and they have to win these comfortably. They have to be 4-0s. Or at least 3-1s. They've got to go 2-0 that week. If they don't, then it spells serious trouble for Seoul. Because in week 4, they will play the Shanghai Dragons again, and the Philadelphia Fusion. The 2 teams that are hunting them down. You see what I mean about the Stage 4? It's teams that are competing for the last spots, playing each other. It's crazy. It's just crazy. And it makes for such a fantastic blockbuster end to the season. I worry for the Seoul Dynasty. They've lost the unpredictability when they lost Fisher, because you know that Marvel plays fairly passive. Fisher was that opportunity to say, hey, we're going to change everything up and we're going to play really aggressive. This is what caught the Hangzhou Spark off guard when they played them, although the Hangzhou Spark did grind out a win. The problem with Seoul is they look inconsistent, and they have done all season. So, do I think they can secure a 6-1 stage, which I think is what they'd need? Because the only, on paper, unwinnable game is the San Francisco Shock game. They have to beat the Dragons twice, they have to beat the Philadelphia Fusion and they have to beat the Valiant. You'd expect them to beat the Guangzhou Charge in Toronto. So a 6-1 stage is not unthinkable for Seoul Dynasty, and a 6-1 stage I would have thought would allow them to get to the playoffs. But is it likely? It's doable, but is it likely? I still have many questions about Seoul Dynasty, and a new meta could throw the Seoul Dynasty for a loop. Yes, we get to see perhaps Fletter on more DPS, but the inconsistency, it's always there for Seoul. And this is the problem. And it's a different sort of inconsistency compared to perhaps London Spitfire. You know that London Spitfire normally can pull it out of the bag when they need to. Seoul Dynasty, I'm not so sure. The only time I've seen Seoul Dynasty pull it out of the bag was in the playoffs against the New York Excelsior. But then you have to question the Excelsior. They had some really off plays in that match. So, are Seoul Dynasty good enough to make it to the playoffs? I'm going to stick my neck out and say no. Not through the automatics anyway. I think it's difficult for Dynasty and Gladiators. I think there's going to be a lot of chopping and changing between these places as it currently stands. And I worry for the Dynasty. I worry for them deeply because their consistency has just not been there. And I think they could drop games, especially against Shanghai and especially against perhaps even Philadelphia. Definitely against Shurk. And that puts them in a difficult position. It really does put them in a difficult position. And maybe, just maybe, we will see them in that competition at the end of Stage 4, playing in as play-ins against the likes of perhaps the Fuel and Rain, where I think they'd have the advantage over those teams. The question is, who will be joining them that don't make it to those last few playoff spots? You could see the likes of Fusion, Dragons, Gladiators. Are they better than those teams? I don't know. It's going to be a hell of a stage for the Dynasty. It's going to be a hell of a stage, and I have some worries for them. I have some genuine worries for them. It could be a stage where they prove themselves as one of the best teams in the league, or it could be a stage where they get shown up. It's a make or break. It's a make or break for the Seoul Dynasty. Those have been your win conditions for the Seoul Dynasty. Next will be your current champions, the London Spitfire, who are on the outside looking in. Oh, but it's doable for London, that's for sure. Seoul Dynasty, make or break. As I said just now, make or break. But for now, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked it, give it a like, subscribe if you're new, and I will see you in the next video. See you then.